Hey, I'm getting a quick root refresh because looking good helps you feel good. L'Oreal gifted me the Magic Root Cover Up Spray, but I've been using this product for years. It blends instantly, covers gray in seconds, and keeps my hair looking fresh between appointments. Easy, flawless, and confidence boosting, just how I like it. Brenda Coffee, welcome to the Bookaholic Podcast.
Hello, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. I think we have a powerful story to bring to the audience today. You are the author of Maya Blue, and it is a memoir of survival. So let's go ahead and get into this because your memoir has been described as a Netflix series come to life. Did you know that?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, Hollywood's been calling, so I'm talking to them.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. It is so exciting. You saw my eyes get big and bright. Okay, so before we dive into your story, first tell us about where you came from. Tell us about your background, your childhood.
Oh, goodness. My father was a former military pilot and raised me like I was in the military. He was pretty arm's length, very strict taskmaster. And
Mm.
my mother was just the opposite. And when he died, I was 12 or 13, and mother had a nervous breakdown, and she and I role reversed. I
Oh,
became the mother, and she became the daughter. Thinking back on that, my father, because of the way he raised me, I think prepared me for just about anything.
okay. So no siblings.
No, I'm an only child.
Okay, okay, okay. And when you say you did the role reversal with your mother, why is that? She became ill physically, mentally?
Mentally, she had what we used to call a nervous breakdown. I don't know if they
Yeah.
still use that term anymore, but she was used to him doing everything. And I just don't think she was emotionally strong enough to handle his death. And so I did everything. I would ride to the grocery store on my bicycle and fill my little wire basket with food as much
Yeah.
as it would hold, and sometimes go back a second time. I was the one that arranged for the boy down the street to mow the yard. And
Wow.
it was, again, looking back, I realized that I had to cut off my highs and lows and live somewhere in the middle to be able to do this to the plate. None of the other kids I knew there were their parents' caregivers. Mother was on Valium with the shades pulled, and often she wouldn't get dressed. And sometimes she would just come out of her room and arbitrarily inject herself into my life, not knowing a thing.
Absolutely. Now, and this may be getting a little off track, but I'm trying to get somewhere. So, with that, did you have relatives that lived nearby that could assist, or were you guys isolated from family?
My father's mother was a very strong influence, but we lived in San Antonio, Texas, mother and I. She
Mhm.
lived in Denver, and she wanted us to come, but mother said no. And my grandmother worked for the government, and so she couldn't quit her job and come here.
Right,
So
right.
she and I spoke on the phone every Saturday faithfully, actually until she died in her 90s.
Wow. Wow. And so, no one, did you have problems at school? Did anybody know about your mother's condition, or you couldn't participate in more childhood or teenage stuff because of your mother? How did that all?
It didn't manifest itself in my grades until I was a senior in high school. And then my grades started slipping, and I was in danger of not graduating with my class, and I had gotten a partial scholarship, so I was in danger of losing that. Uh,
Got you. Got
Mother
you.
and I just butted heads over everything.
Thank you for describing your childhood because back to the original statement that I made was your memoir has been described as a Netflix series come to life. So, When you look back on those years with Philip Ray, the genius behind the first personal computer, what do you think initially drew you to him? And when did the admiration start to shift into something darker?
We met when I went to work for his company that he started, which was a public company. And yes, he invented the first personal computer and the microprocessor. And aside from being brilliant, he was also gorgeous.
Oh,
And I'd been there, I guess maybe a year and a half. And I went with a girlfriend to have drinks after work, and he came in. And it was the first time really that he and I had a conversation. At the end of this conversation, we didn't realize it, but we were the only two people left there. They'd already shut the place down. And so he walks me to my car, and we just knew there was this magnetic connection, even
yeah,
though I was 21 and he was almost 34. But
yeah.
he said, I won't date employees. And that was on a Friday night. And Monday I walked in and handed in my resignation. And yeah, 2 weeks later, we were living together, and we were together for 17 years until he died.
Wow. Wow.
I
So,
think he also, in order to be my mother's caregiver, I had to, as I said, shut down a lot of things. I became a lot older and more responsible, and I
right.
pretended not to be afraid of anything or anybody. And I think that Philip recognized something about that bravado in me, and that appealed to him.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. And you said again, he was 34 and you were 21 when you
Yes.
first. Wow. Wow. So you worked for his company. What did you do? Did you graduate from high school and did you go to community college? Did you go to
Well, I
college?
had a scholarship to Trinity University here in San Antonio, but
Okay.
I was a town student. I was living at home with mother, and I, she still was.
Right.
I wound up quitting college. I gave up my scholarship and
Mm,
went to junior college at night and went to work for Data Point Corporation, which was the public company that Philip Ray started. I
okay.
did that so I would have some independence and I wasn't living with mother.
But she was okay to live at home while you at by this time, or was she in a facility?
No, she had a job and she was okay, but it was that she couldn't cut the apron strings, if you will.
Got you. There's a part that said Philip told you, "This is my train and you're welcome to ride it." And you accepted the ride, and even when it veered into danger. So, was there a specific moment when you realized you needed to get off that train no matter the cost?
Yes, we lived on the edge of everything. He
Okay.
raced cars. He taught me how to race cars. We raced Porsches for 9 years on the SCCA Solo One circuit. We dug for minerals and crystals in abandoned silver mines. Everything we did was dangerous. We
Mhm.
hacked our way through 3 canopy jungles, digging for unexcavated Maya ruins. We were Indiana Jones before there was an Indiana Jones. And
Yes.
I loved all of it until Philip taught himself. He was in between public companies, if you will. And having our adrenaline trips wasn't challenging enough for this brilliant man. And so he decided to see if he couldn't learn to make cocaine from scratch. Yeah.
What? Okay.
So he did.
So let's pause for a second. Obviously, just like you just said, obviously this man was brilliant. Obviously he was brilliant. You said he was very handsome. So right there, and let's just throw in rich, correct?
On paper.
On
On
paper.
paper.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but his bravado, the fact that he's brilliant, the fact that he's handsome, and like you say, on paper he's rich. That's all a young woman needs to be totally enthralled. Because
And
I'm enthralled listening to the story, and I
he
know as young
wasn't,
as you were.
he wasn't one of those kind of know-it-all types. He wasn't one of
Okay.
those that would say, "Oh, I know how that works. Let me tell you about that." No, he was very low key and very understated. And I remember finding one of his high school albums, and somebody had written a comment in the back of his album about that if they heard that if the end of the world were coming, that he would beat a path to Philip Ray's door because he knew Philip would figure a way out.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
So
amazing.
everybody felt like this about him. And even our friends, he was respected and revered and adored. And it was just, we lived within our, what I thought our means were, which was relatively modest. Because again, on paper, he had money, he had stock in a public company.
Right.
He was just receiving a paycheck. But it was the man. He was just absolutely fascinating. And it was love at first sight. And I decided early on that I wanted to be the one woman that he couldn't live without. So whether it was adventurous or dangerous or sexual or illegal, I did pretty much whatever he wanted.
Yeah, you got on that train.
Yes, I wanted to be that woman. And actually, that statement that he made about this is my train and you're welcome to ride it. But what was the rest of it? He said, and it'll be the best ride you've ever had. But if at any time you don't like the destination, you're free to get off. That
Right.
statement took up a lot of real estate in my head.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure because you were like, why would he say that? I don't want
Yeah.
to get off the train. I'm sure that's how, you started.
Yeah.
But then as things started to happen, then you went back to that statement, I'm sure.
Well, it
So,
was always there someplace.
yes, rattling around rent free. So, why do you think he had such a personality, this type of guy? So, the way you described him, the way I thought he was going to be, and the way you described him is quite different. Why do you think he wanted such a rush of adrenaline and wanted to live on the edge so much? What was that type of, have you figured out the personality type that he had?
Before I met him, he was brilliant in college, and he wound up his first job out of college getting a very top secret government clearance and built these secret black boxes for Texas Instruments.
Texas.
Um, and so even the president and the chairman of the board of TI could not get into young Philip's lab. And then he went on to be project manager of the Titan and the Atlas rockets. And at the same time, he was an NSA agent. He was brilliant and he had top secret clearance. And I don't know a lot about that, but I do know that he was a spy. So for the
Wow.
government, for the US.
Right.
And so you put all that together, and he liked to scuba dive and race cars, and he was just that kind of guy.
Wow. Wow.
And I hadn't been allowed to have much of an independent life as a preteen or a teenager because of mother. And she was very overprotective. So yeah, I wanted to jump on that. Yes, I want to learn to race cars. Yes, I want to learn to scuba dive. This sounds exciting. They were
Mhm.
things that I had never done before.
Absolutely.
I would have followed him anywhere, and I did.
Wow. Now, what about, let's go back to the cocaine. So he wanted to learn how to make cocaine from scratch.
It he had this thing about increased value, about something that starts off as being worthless and then it turns into a big deal.
Okay.
Like he was a little boy and his older brother, he watched his older brother take a block of wood and turn it into a beautiful model car that his brother then used to win a 4-year Ford Foundation scholarship to Stanford.
Oh,
So that was young Philip. A block of wood. Now my brother's got this everything paid for Stanford scholarship.
absolutely.
And so then, like the microprocessor, that's just silicon, which is
Right.
basically worthless. But now it's our blow dryers are smarter than we are
Right.
because they have a microprocessor in them. So he really understood this phenomenon. And we had been at the Smithsonian and we had seen a diamond and the sign said it was in a case and there was a guard there and it was a pretty good size, beautiful, flawless diamond. And the sign said that this was the first man-made diamond. General Electric had made it by using enormous amounts of heat and pressure
Okay.
and carbon.
Okay.
And by themselves, that's worth nothing. And we came home from that visit to the Smithsonian, and Philip said, I wonder if anybody's learned to make emeralds. And I, by then, had a degree in journalism, and I went to Trinity University and to their library and discovered that somebody had made emeralds. And so I printed out the paper, and when I got home, Philip was reading Time magazine, and the cover story article was about cocaine and how it wasn't just for the jet set in Hollywood, that mom and pop America had drug dealers.
Wow.
And it was this just eye-opening story about how people were willing to risk everything to possess cocaine. And he said, this is another example of what he called increased value. It starts as a leaf, and then it becomes this thing that people are willing to die and to kill for.
Yes.
I wonder if anybody's learned to make it. But see, that's in his mind because he's always made things. He made black boxes, he made missiles, he made rockets, computers. So these giant tasks did not intimidate him. And he loved the challenge, and he was looking for a challenge because he wasn't ready to get involved in doing another company. So that's how this came about. And it took him like a year and a half. But once he knew that he had it, he decided to try it and see what all the fuss was about, if you will.
Wow.
But
Wow.
he became addicted to it. I tried it and it scared me to death. My heart started beating and I wanted him to take me to the emergency room, but Philip loved it. And so he continued to work on it in his lab. He's telling me that a real organic synthesis chemist would say his methods were sloppy and that he needed to refine the technique and increase his yield. He was only making like maybe a quarter of a teaspoon's worth. And the whole time he's down there, at the same time, I'm restoring by myself this old haunted house, if you will, that we bought that's 3 stories. And so I'm upstairs plastering and painting. I'm doing everything by myself. And he's downstairs. And every time I would go down and look, he's happy and the door's open and he'll wave at me. And I'll go down and he'll teach me something about mercury, or it's like living with Mr. Wizard.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't have a good feel for how much he was making and using until one day I was vacuuming and the carpeting in the corner of a room pulled up and got stuck in my vacuum cleaner. And I turned it off and went to unstick, pull the carpet out and put it back in, and I noticed there was a baggie full of cocaine hidden under the carpet.
Oh,
And I flushed it down the toilet and confronted him. And I realized that we had a problem.
yes.
But that wasn't the biggest problem I had.
Okay. And let me just make this statement. The fact that he was successful in taking a leaf, the proper leaf, to turning it into cocaine.
By the way, he didn't take the leaf and do that.
Oh, he
He did it all with chemicals.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. So
He started from scratch. No leaf.
Oh, wow.
He
Okay.
set up a full organic synthesis chemistry lab downstairs in our house and had all of these malencrot chemicals.
Wow.
I'm telling you, this man was brilliant.
Indeed he was. So let's go on to see what was
my biggest problem.
Yes, the other problem.
My biggest problem.
It was the biggest. Okay, here we go.
While he was downstairs, he was a smoker, and he couldn't smoke down there because it would be dangerous, because there was a heat source and he had all of these chemicals. He had a vent hood, but still. And so he came to understand a lot about drugs and alkaloids, and which are drugs that come from plants. And nicotine is one of those, comes from tobacco. And so I'm upstairs working one day, and he comes upstairs and he's got this little, I thought he had a cigarette in his hand. He inhaled and he exhaled, but there was no smoke. And he hands this to me, and I look at it, and it's a little metal tube, and he's covered it in white shelf paper, and on the end it's got like cork colored shelf paper to look like the filtered end.
Right.
And I smell it, and it's a sharp smell. Right. And I got a little high, and he said, I solved my smoking problem. I made a smokeless cigarette. This has just a little bit of nicotine in it, but you don't have to light it. It's not like you just inhale. And I've been wanting him to stop working in the lab because we got a flipping drug lab downstairs, and I'm terrified.
Absolutely.
And I said, here's what you need to be doing, Philip. There's a business here, because at the time, this was the late 70s, early 80s, cigarette smoking was being banned all over the world, and because it was unhealthy. And so together we did all the work and wrote a business plan to start his second public company to manufacture this. And I coined the terms vape and vaping, because it was just nicotine vapor. And I said to myself, we're not smoking, and it's just vapor. There's no smoke, so we're vaping.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I came up with terms in the late 70s.
Oh my gosh.
So by now we've raised money, and it's a publicly held company. And the former president of RJ Reynolds International is our vice president of marketing. But I'm noticing, and so is Philip, that people are breaking into our house. They're messing with my papers on my desk upstairs. They're down in Philip's lab. They're in my closets. They're leaving my black thigh highs in a drawer with my belts, something I would never do.
Oh.
And then I've noticed that there's guys pulling up at the foot of our hill, and they're putting our garbage in the trunk of their car and driving away with it. And then as I open page 1 of the book, this big bodybuilder kind of guy knocks on our door. and says he has it on good authority that whoever lives here needs a bodyguard and they better watch their step. And by then, since childhood, I'm good at pretending I'm not afraid of anything or anybody. And so I looked at him and I said, "You must have the wrong house." And I closed the door in his face. But we both knew I was not telling the truth. And so the VP of marketing still had back channels into Big Tobacco, and the scuttlebutt on the street, mind you, Big Tobacco is like the mafia.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They don't play nice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And the word was they wanted us to vanish from the face of the earth.
Because you were going to mess up their tobacco industry.
Yeah, but it gets worse than that,
Oh,
Deirdre,
God.
because I learned that the federal government is in bed together with the tobacco industry.
Yeah, I
You've
can
heard
see
of
that.
the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division of
Yes.
the government, the ATF.
Yes.
Their second largest revenue source is the tax on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Oh my gosh. I did not put that together.
And our little vape fell through the cracks of the legal definition of a cigarette. And so they couldn't tax this product. And at the same time, Big Tobacco is terrified that we're going to wind up selling a lot of vapes because cigarettes are being banned all over the world.
Yes.
Which is going to cut into their billions of dollars of revenue.
Yes.
So we got both of these powerful forces that are against us. This little public company in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes.
And we wound up, our attorneys hired us a bodyguard. He was the sniper on the San Antonio SWAT squad.
Wow.
And I'm here to tell you that's not a way that you want to live.
I can see that. I can see that. So continue your story.
At some point, Philip developed lung cancer and he died.
So continue your story.
At some point, Philip developed lung cancer and he died. And I'm going to skip through that.
What year was that?
He died in 1987.
Okay. So he died in 1987.
I'm shell shocked. I'm a mess. Not outwardly, but inwardly, and I've learned that he's run through all of our money. And so I owe 3 years back taxes, penalty, and interest, the mortgage on our house, a year and a half worth of cancer bills. And I'm trying to spend what money I have to take care of his mother. And so at some point I just said, I got to get out of here. I need to find out who is Brenda and what does she want? Because all these years I became the woman that Philip Ray wanted. But what
on that side?
And so I decided to go to Belize and take underwater pictures and go snorkeling, something that I used to do and I loved. And while I was there, I wound up meeting this really delightful British couple. And like me, they liked Mayan ruins. I remember she said, "Did you know that Tikal, the ruin in Guatemala, has been restored enough that they're letting tourists in?" And I did not know that. And we all got excited. And so the three of us were going to go. But when they couldn't change their return reservations back to London, I said, I can do anything. I'm used to adventure travel.
Yes.
I'm just going to go.
Right.
And so in Belize City, I got on a school bus that was supposed to take me to Tikal, but it
Mhm.
didn't. It let me off in the middle of the jungle.
Was not an authorized tour bus.
No, it wasn't. No. And I walked to the nearest town and found out it was a Catholic holiday, Ascension Day.
Okay.
And there was not going to be another bus until tomorrow. But everything in this little town was just boarded up and shut up. There was no place to get a Coke or spend the night.
Hmm.
And this sweet little man, he was a cab driver. He lived there, but he drove cabs in Guatemala City. He said, he stopped and he said, I can take you to where you can get a bus. And so I trusted him. And let's just say we wound up on a bad road.
Ugh.
And we were driving through what turned out to be the Guatemalan Army's training base.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't know it at the time, but I know it now from research that according to the United Nations, this group was the worst of the worst.
Oh my gracious.
And during this period of time in Guatemala's history, this group killed over 200,000 people.
Oh my gracious.
And they're referred to as the desaparecidos, the disappeared. And there, it's estimated there were between 3,000 and 4,000 Americans that they disappeared.
Right.
And so they stopped the taxi and they took my passport and they marched us into the jungle at gunpoint.
Oh my God.
And I quickly realized that what was in store for me.
Yes, absolutely. So that in and of itself, you could have been killed. How did you get out of that?
I think fate arranged part of it and I created my own opportunity. We had sat there waiting for a long time for my name for him is El Jefe, the head guy. And he and a few guys show up to where we are. It's where they've been holding us at a clearing in the jungle. And so he looks at my passport and it was terrifying.
Yes, yes.
I'm trying to think about how to tell you this without telling you everything. It's there. We heard gunshots in another part of the jungle, and
Right.
it sounded far away. And El Jefe handed my passport to this guy that I later have named Romeo. And everybody took off in the direction of running,
Right.
in the direction of gunshots,
Right.
except this one guy. And he didn't waste any time. He immediately got me and started taking my clothes off. And so he's got me on the ground and his pants are down and he's exposed. And shall we say, I seized on an opportunity. I'm hitting him and I'm fighting him and I'm trying to get him off of me. And in the process, my hand brushed his penis. And he threw his head back and I remember he just made this
Oh my God.
sound. He liked that I had touched him.
Ugh.
And so his head's back and his eyes are closed. And I just reached up under there and I grabbed him as hard as I could, and I dug my fingernails into his, shall we say, his testicles
Okay. Oh gosh.
as hard as I could, and like I was trying to rip them off of his body. And he fell back in just agonizing pain, and he's
Good.
howling, and I jump up and I'm trying to get my clothes on, and
Right.
his hands are covering his groin. And I remember he looked up at me, and I could tell he was seeing me, not my body parts,
He,
me.
he underestimated you.
And he's looking up at me, and I kicked him in the throat,
Ooh.
and I
Good.
took his breath away. And
Mm.
so now he's got, his hands have come from down here to up here. And then I kicked him where it really hurt again. And I took his gun and the hand of the cab driver, and we ran.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot, Brenda. That's a lot. Do you ever question why? And I guess we all do at some point. Do you ever question why you have had this journey?
I want to say no, and then I want to say yes, because I've had 2 top 10 blogs. One was a breast cancer blog, and now the blog that I have for women over 50. And it didn't occur to me until I started writing this book that I've always written about survivorship,
Mm,
and that you're stronger than you think you are. And women have always left comments on my blog, or they email me and tell me that I've inspired them, that I've helped them get through tough times. And so maybe I was supposed to do that. I don't know. But I picked the name Maya Blue,
yes.
my book, for a reason. It's the art historians say it's the strongest, most resilient, and the oldest pigment known to man.
Mm,
The Maya created it over 2,000 years ago, and you can still see it on some of their pyramids. And I saw it. I saw that color
yes.
in the jungle on this partially, it wasn't even, I can't call it partially excavated, because the roots of trees had grown into this pyramid and broken it apart. And so there were pieces of it all around me on the ground, and that color was on there. And I learned when I was researching this color that they also painted their sacrificial victims this color, most of which were women. But so I'm using this Maya Blue, this color, as a metaphor for not just my strength, but yours and everybody else's, because I think most of us are surviving something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We may not tell anybody about it. We may not seek therapy, but there's something that we have gone through that's been really hard, and that the message that I'm sending with Maya Blue is that you're stronger than you think you are.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. On face value, when you're reading the book jacket and all of these things, and like we talked about earlier, about it's a Netflix series come to life, your memoir. It looks like it's all of this adventure and all these happenings, and they're all unbelievable. But this is a story of transformation, because really still living on Philip's ride is what got you into that jungle. You were still thinking, living that dashing, adventuresome Indiana Jones life.
It was
Uh,
all I knew. It was all I knew by then.
Absolutely. And so you were totally living, you were not even yourself. You were living under Philip's guise and personality. And so you went through all of this and you've transformed. When did your transformation to become Brenda Coffee, back to Brenda Coffee? When did that come about?
I think it's been in stages, and realizing that kind of lifestyle of being an adrenaline junkie is not good for you.
No.
And it really severely impeded my ability to make friends. I if you meet somebody new, if you and I met and we said, "Hey, I like you," which we do,
Right.
let's meet for lunch. And you ask the usual questions like, "So what do you do? What do
Right.
you do? Are you married? What does your husband do?" What am I going to say? Oh, he makes cocaine and I'm waiting for the moment when it backfires on us.
Yes.
I didn't, it was hard for me to make friends because I couldn't share my real life.
Absolutely.
So I still have this same small circle of friends that I had then. I've expanded it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know what I would do without these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brenda, I just want to say thank you for coming on the Bookaholic Podcast and sharing your amazing story. Of course, we will have your information in the podcast show notes and in the YouTube description box, but we may have to have you come back on in some type of other facet because I think we can take this to a step two, a part two rather, to focus in on some maybe survivors out there that need to hear your story, and it may need to be in just an intimate setting and an intimate group and talking about having real talk amongst survivors, mainly women, to hear more of your story.
I would appreciate that very much. And you've just reminded me that I can say, to answer your question of when did I find Brenda, it was in a therapy group.
Mm.
It was a Monday night therapy group
Mm.
for abused women. I was ticked off that I was even there.
Okay.
I remember one of the women was a meth addict and she was missing teeth. And I'm thinking,
Not her.
I have nothing in common with her. But as the weeks progressed, I had this aha moment of that all of us have given away our power.
Yes.
We've been living for somebody else,
Yes.
doing what somebody else wanted us to do,
Yes.
that we could walk away,
Yes.
not do that anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for writing this book, for writing your life story, your memoir. I have never been left so heavy in all of my podcasting days since 2021 when I started this channel. This has been one of the most impactful interviews that I've done. And it's not a traditional one, but this is affecting me deeply. Anyway, thank you so much, Brenda. I'm so glad you and I were able to come together, and hopefully we can touch base again very soon.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, the name of the book is Maya Blue, A Memoir of Survival by Brenda Coffee. And as I said a little bit earlier, we will have this information in the podcast show notes and in the YouTube description box. Thank you so much for joining.